All right. Hey guys, I'm Wendy from Franklin's Arch, and we are a new group in the Middle Tennessee area that is focused on the 18 to 26-year-old LGBTQ community. But truly, whoever we reach, wherever you live, we are glad to have you here and part of the community. And we hope that the support in the community and the counsel that we're providing through Franklin's Arch reaches you in some capacity in a positive way. Tonight we have Marcy Pack, who's going to be talking about not stressing, but impressing with resumes and interviews and all things getting ready for job stuff. So without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Marcy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to present this tonight. So this is called Don't Stress, Impress. Job hunting tips to find an opportunity, create a standout resume, and ace that interview. I'm Marcy Pack. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a tech manager in Middle Tennessee. My email is there, wordsmith8@yahoo.com if you want to reach out. And I'm just going to talk about everything related to the job hunting field, really. And so step by step, what we're going to talk about. First, finding a job opportunity, creating and updating your resume, showing the interviewer that you're the best choice, and keeping your employer impressed. There are as many ways to job hunt as there are jobs in the world, so you're going to have a very individual path. But I hope this session at least gives you some insight into how you can improve your chances of finding a job that you really thrive at. And thinking especially about Gen Z, there's so many different hot jobs right now. And yeah, tech and digital media, but there's also healthcare and business and entertainment, teaching, food service, a lot of delivery services, the trades. So there's so many different fields that it can be very overwhelming to try to even think about what you want to do and how you could find any job that really interests you. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And also the internet has so much information on all these topics. And I know that's also overwhelming, but it's also a great tool. There's so much that you can learn about creating a great looking resume and how to interview. Everything we talk about tonight, if you just Google it, there is so much at your fingertips. So I think we will... So we want to focus on showcasing a few of your best traits. And that's going to be in the resume or in the interview. You want to start thinking about what are the 3 or 4 traits that you have that you really want to showcase, because you're going to want to keep those in mind and really push those. And if you're not sure what those things are, that's probably step number 1 for you. Go to anyone in your life and say, you know, what's interesting about me? What do you like about me? You know, if you're part of a friend group, are you the friend that organizes the outings? Are you the friend who shares the funny joke? Are you the friend that's very thoughtful and loyal? You know, where do you fit? What do you have to offer? And if you think about that in terms of the world, what you have to offer the world, it's also what you have to offer at a job. And that can help you better get to exactly what you might want to look for. So many of you listening are probably Gen Z, and I'm Gen X, and a lot of hiring managers are going to be Gen X or older millennials. And so I think it's really important for all of us to understand each other more And I know that as managers right now, we know that Gen Z wants flexibility. They want remote work. They want work-life balance. They want more pay, all of those things that are more than traditionally we used to offer for entry-level positions. But we also have more expectations of those people that we're going to hire. And so I want to give a little insight into that also. So we'll start with opportunities. There's a saying, if opportunity doesn't knock, build a door. And, quite literally, you're going to have to build your own portal to this position. And one way to do that is to network and also to use, of course, online job sites. So if you consider your ultimate career goals, that is one step, but you need to stay flexible. It's very rare that you're going to find the perfect opportunity, especially if this is your first or second or third job. You need to be a little open to changing what you're thinking about, maybe what your career goal is, or you can keep your same career goal, but you need to think of a different path to that goal. Major websites are best. I often recommend and use Indeed.com. Those are usually best because those jobs are updated very frequently. Every few minutes, probably there's new jobs popping in, but you have to be ready to act then. You can also watch smaller websites that target a specific profession or a location, like something, again, about Middle Tennessee, or certain applicant types. You can watch those. You can also watch a few employers that are around you that you would love to work for. But a lot of times those job listings do not update frequently. So the best thing to do if you're really seriously job hunting is to keep an eye on one of the major sites. But just as important as looking online is looking in real life. Who's in your network? How can you expand that network? And this is not just a professional network, and no one expects you to have a huge professional network at this stage, but who do you know? Do you have a high school counselor, a high school teacher? Are you at a college that has a career center? Who have you ever met in your life that maybe is in the same career field? Maybe there's a neighbor you can remember, a friend. Are you part of a community group like this one, or a lot of other groups that maybe you were in or are in? Almost anyone could offer you a job lead. Literally, your barista or a librarian or the person working at a store that you go to and those kind of people. But the thing is, you have to tell them what you're looking for. And just saying, I'm looking for a job is usually not enough. You need to also share what are your key traits again. I'm a friendly person who has sales experience, and deal breakers. What are you not going to do? If you're only going to take a daytime job in Nashville, you should be saying that as part of this little explanation of what job you'd want. And I remember one time I was at a Christmas party and a woman said, I'm looking for a job. And I said, tell me more. And she mentioned several skills she had. And I knew just from her being at the party how people were responding to her. She seemed to be a nice, friendly person, And so I said, actually, I do know a job opening. And sometimes that's all it takes, is you just have to say it around the correct person. And it doesn't help me too much just to know you're looking for a job, but I want to hear a little bit more about what you have to offer, and then, what you're willing to do. So if you can have a little statement like that, that could help a lot. Informational interviews, those are more formal, where you're actually talking to someone who is in the field that you're interested in, or maybe at the company that you're interested in. And you ask for a little bit of their time just to sit and hear more about their position and any tips that they can give you. One recommendation there is to find someone who likes their job and is satisfied at their job. I think usually those people are going to give you the best overview. And you can ask them, what is challenging about this position or this job field? What do you enjoy about it? What do you think I'll enjoy about it? Those kind of contacts are very valuable. And again, it may not pay off for 5 years, but they're going to remember you and what, and they might have someone that they can refer you to immediately. So it's worth thinking about doing that for sure. The last thing in finding an opportunity is apply early. You might see a job opportunity pop up and you're like, this is what I'm looking for. So you need to get on it. No matter what's going on in your life, you can't wait till Thursday if it's Monday. You need to get working on it. And you do need to take the time to target your application, your cover letter, and your resume to that job. It is very true that I can look at a resume for about 10 seconds and decide if I'm going to put it in the keep pile or the pitch pile. And you'll see that mentioned a lot among hiring managers, that is a very quick decision, which I know that's very scary. But they're looking for certain things. They're looking for, how do you match the job description? And do you look like you want this job? I remember I had an opening, and the person who applied said that they had experience working at a hotel, and the whole resume was about that. And I wasn't hiring for someone who worked at a hotel, and I put it off to the side. But there is a way maybe they could have said, here's the skills I have. I can greet people. I can create spreadsheets. I schedule people. I have been in these challenging situations, and this is what I did. So you want to think about it that way. Someone picking up your resume, is there something in there that speaks to what they're looking for? And by the time you send it in, you need to know what they're looking for. So that brings us to resumes. Again, so many resources online, and I don't have a particular one to recommend, but look at several and definitely lean toward keeping it simple. That is about the number one thing. Unless you're in a very creative industry, maybe marketing, or you're an artist, don't add color to your resume. Don't add all these crazy fonts. And, you want something simple, straightforward, very easy for the hiring manager to scan. You may want to put at the top an about me summary statement where you explain in 1 or 2 sentences what you have to offer. Again, those key traits, how many years of experience maybe, and what you're looking for. But again, you need to make sure it's what this company is looking for. You want to showcase your education, your experience, and your skills. That can be 3 separate parts of the resume, but they're simple sentence. This is where you went to school. This is the years. This is where you worked. This is the years. List some bullets of what you did when you worked there. When you're finished, you want to read it very, very carefully, of course. You want to ask someone else to also review it, preferably several someones. It really doesn't matter who it is. It does not need to be someone in the field. It can be someone in your home, someone in your friend group. You just need to get it in front of as many people as possible, because their questions, their edits will make you rethink how you're working on that resume. You can also ask to see other people's resumes. And sometimes people are shy about that, but it helps a lot. You can also see many examples online. Watch your spelling and grammar. That depends more. That's more important for certain positions than other positions. But generally, most managers who see a few mistakes, you're going in the discard pile, and that's just how it's going to be, because they're worried that you're not detail oriented or conscientious. So use verbs. Use a lot of verbs, and use good, strong verbs about what you did. Did you lead something? Did you organize something? Did you deliver? You can use present tense verbs for your current position, like if you're already in a position. And then if you're talking about past jobs, you're going to want to list past tense verbs. Led a committee, delivered these results. You want to focus on writing 1 or 2 standout phrases that will catch the attention of the reader. So that might be in the cover letter, that might be at the top of the resume. Sometimes there's a part of the application where you can have additional comments, but something that stays on topic. You don't want to talk about, I like to fish. You want to stick on the topic, but you're going to use anything you've learned about from the job description, from looking up the company online, anything you've learned about the interviewer. A lot of times you can find out something about your interviewer before you're in front of them. Look them up on LinkedIn. Look them up anywhere on the internet. Look them up in Facebook. The more you can get a sense of who you're going to be talking to. Sometimes you can even ask the person setting up the interview, if it's someone in human resources, you can say, tell me again, what is their position? What does that mean? And get more information. You don't want to add anything that is too shocking or controversial or embarrassing. People want to show their personalities in the resume, and it's often hard to do that in a way that doesn't come off awkward. Sometimes people will add a link to a website, right? It might be their name.com. And the hiring manager will go there to see often samples of your work, or a lot of times those websites just, again, share more information about your interests and your job, just your whole job search, really. And it'll have another link to your resume there and everything. But again, you want to stay on topic. I remember one I went to, and it had a video of the guy standing like in the ocean, like next to the ocean, saying, I'm the kind of guy who loves to go to the beach and that kind of thing. And it just it came off as strange instead of quirky or whatever he was hoping, So you have to be careful of those kinds of things. Again, especially if you're not trying to be an actor or something like that. Keep it simple. Keep it where they can picture you in this job. And yeah, put yourself in their place. What kind of worker do you think they're looking for? And I think the last tip on the resume is, when you are done, turn it upside down. Read it from the bottom to the top. Read it upside down. Read the sentences from the back to the beginning, especially if you don't have anyone who can help you. Sometimes doing something different like that will make errors pop out to you. And so that's just kind of a little something you can do to just make sure that you're doing everything you can to make it a very solid resume. So now we're going to move on to interviewing. This is something a lot of people are very nervous to do. And I will say, as a hiring manager, a lot of times I'm very nervous to do this. So, and everyone who comes in is nervous. And this is whether it's virtual or in person. It's really the same. Even if you don't have to be on camera, which usually a hiring manager is going to strongly prefer that. But if you are just having a phone call, even, it is a tough thing. And you have to know that as soon as you accept that invitation to interview, the hiring manager is observing you. And that's just how it goes. From that point on, if you email, they're looking for, are you responding politely? Are you being professional? Are you reaching out immediately if you have a scheduling conflict, right? Some of those things are deal breakers. Some of them aren't, but you have to be taking responsibility for each part. You cannot have an email from them that you don't respond to. That kind of thing is really key. If you've gotten your foot in the door far enough that you get to interview, you need to take that very seriously. Some companies have 3 or 4 interviews. But let's move on to the next slide here. So yeah, your interview starts right away. And if you are in person somewhere, immediately, you're in the parking lot, you're talking to other people, maybe on the elevator or in the hallway, or any of those people could be potential coworkers. I would suggest you drive there in advance, so you're not showing up there the day of, not having seen the place. You want to treat everybody with respect that you see. If you are starting off on possibly a bad foot because, I don't know, you're a few minutes late, or you're just rattled about something, or the best thing is not to apologize over and over again. I think the better thing to do there is thank them for it. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for, where you're being brief and sincere and trying to show that this is not your ordinary, situation. And I've definitely had people who have had something happen traffic wise or whatever the day of the interview. That in and of itself is not going to doom someone, but I know there's other hiring managers who might not say that. But we're definitely watching how you handle any obstacle you encounter. Again, the second bullet here, be ready with the top things you want to convey. This is back to those top 3 or 4 things. What are the 3 or 4 things about you that you think that company really needs? That is very helpful, especially if you get a question that just really kind of comes out of left field. A lot of times, a hiring manager will try to ask you something that is challenging, or something like, if you were a desk supply, what would you be, right? And it's like, I'd be glue because it holds the team together. It's those things that we kind of laugh about, but there are definitely people who do ask questions like that. You know, what color do you picture yourself as? Things like that. Sometimes they're just trying to see how you're going to handle it. And if you have a ready answer, not to that, but you have a ready answer, what are you trying to convey, right? I would be yellow because I'm a cheerful person, right? Something like that. You're in sales. You want to show that you're friendly. Maybe they might say something as simple as, tell me about yourself. You want to have those 2 or 3 sentences ready to go. And that's kind of a gotcha question, right? Because a lot of people go, oh, or they start talking about something biographical, where they were born, what they're, who's in their family, that kind of thing. But what they're really saying is, tell me about how you could fit in at our company. And so again, the more you know about this position, the better you can answer that. And a lot of these questions will probably come more toward the end of the interview. So you have a lot of material there that you can use. You need to be listening to everything they bring up. And what do they show passion about? You're going to see at some point the hiring manager either getting very interested in what you're saying, leaning forward, maybe smiling, asking you a follow-up question. You also may see them kind of, lean back, maybe kind of disregard what you say. You can pick up on things, right? If you ask them questions, always ask them questions. This is a huge thing that people don't do. And you have to ask questions. You will be thrown out very quickly if you're of the interviewing pile if you don't. And that is simply because the hiring manager is thinking, okay, I've been talking to you about this job for 20 or 30 minutes and you have nothing to ask about. It just doesn't show interest, curiosity. So again, you can always fall back on something you planned in advance. Maybe something like, let's see, how would you describe the company culture? What do you think I would like about working here? What do you enjoy about working here? A simple question like that is fine. Have that ready to go, but also be listening. What else can you ask based on what they said? Did they show irritation or anger when they were thinking about something? They were telling you a story about something that happened, or, did they say something to you like, I really hope that you can be reliable, or I really hope you can help me with this. I often say that in my interviews. I will say, do you think you could help me with this problem that I'm having? And partly it's just to see, how are they going to answer that? They may not know that answer, but do they have that helping spirit? Because you're looking for that as a manager. You want to demonstrate you've researched the job and the company. You can look on LinkedIn. You can look on Glassdoor. You can look at the company website. You need to know something about the company. If you know nothing and you say it's in the wrong industry, things like that, you're not showing enough interest. Again, they're going to go for the person who most wants to be in that job. And it's kind of a gut feeling, but it's also who's prepared for this. And when you're asking questions, you want to make sure that you're not grilling them. You don't want to ask 10 questions, but 2 or 3 is fine. You don't want to complain. You don't want to complain about your current job or your previous jobs, even if that's the reason you're sitting there in front of them because you can't stand your current job. That doesn't get you far, because a hiring manager can very easily imagine you complaining about them in the future. And sure, we all complain about our jobs. I mean, I think people understand that. But the more positive you can be, the more confident you can be, the more enthusiastic you can be, you are definitely putting yourself closer to the top of that pile. So that's something to keep in mind for interviewing. And your attitude is really the most important thing. People worry so much about what they wear in most cases, unless it's just obviously inappropriate for the job. That is less important than how you're acting and how you seem to be embracing the opportunity that you may have. Okay, so now let's say you have the job. Congratulations. What next, and how can you continue to impress your employer? This is a key thing. You want to make a good impression, especially in that first 6 months. Usually by the 6-month mark, managers are pretty clear if they're pleased with the hire or not. And if you can get to that 6-month mark and get a good review, whether that's, some places do have a formal 6-month review, but a lot of other places, that's a point where they're really thinking about what you've contributed. These are some things to keep in mind to be impressive in that first 6 months. Number one is be reliable. I think there's just nothing more important than that. And, you know, people say showing up is half the battle. It is. It very much is. If you show up every day on time, you're ahead of a lot of other people, which is kind of sad, but it's also very good if you're someone who can meet that. Another part of being reliable, though, is, do you respond to emails? Are you meeting your deadlines? Are you making sure that if you say you'll do something, you're doing it, or you're getting back to the person very quickly and saying, here's what I ran into, so that no one is sitting around saying, where are you? Or what are you doing? Or why is this not done? You know, just continuing to meet those expectations is so important. Listen, for sure. There's a lot to learn at most jobs in the first, 6 months. So there's going to be a lot, and it can be very overwhelming again. But the good thing is, if you can start grasping it, start documenting it for yourself, whatever you need to do, it will become much easier. And that second half of the first year will be much easier, and there will be much less scrutiny on you because you'll have met those basic expectations, and everyone will understand then if you have an occasional day that, oh, you forgot an email or you were late or something. It becomes less of a big deal when you can see that it's not a pattern. It's just occasionally everyone has something happen. You don't want to overshare your opinions. You may absolutely come in and say, I just can't even believe how this company is operating, what they're doing. There's so many better ways to do it. You need to know your audience. A lot of times, managers in a one-on-one meeting with you, they would be happy to hear your good ideas. I always love when people have ideas to offer, because it shows, again, they've been paying attention, they've been listening, they've been thinking about how to help me. So I think it's really important to offer those ideas. But on the other hand, if you're in a big, let's say a company call, a couple hundred people, that is not the time to share your opinions, especially if your opinion is a negative one. If you fumble or disappoint, how do you bounce back? Again, really important. What do you do the next day? You need to own your mistakes, and you need to state, what are you going to do to keep this from happening again? That goes a long way also. This is what happened yesterday. This is what I'm going to do. And something very specific. I hadn't put that on my calendar. I hadn't given myself a calendar reminder about it. From now on, this is what I'm going to do. Something substantive that you are actually going to do. Let's say you had to do something that you feel disappointed your manager. Okay, so an example of that too might be even just something in your personal life. Let's say your cat is sick or something, and you're like, I just can't work this afternoon. I really have to take a few hours off. You may be so new to the job that you don't even really have time off, and you got to go to your manager and you have to explain it. Again, a caring manager will understand that kind of thing. So let's say you go take a few hours off. That next morning, you want to be working. You want to maybe even come in a little early or just show up on time, but be working. Maybe you missed something yesterday. You're responding to that email you missed. You're making sure you're in the call. Maybe you ask someone, what did I miss yesterday? And you kind of show, it's kind of like if you missed a day of school, right? You show that you're coming back and getting yourself updated and you're ready to go again. And people remember that the next time that you ask for either something special or you just forget something one day. It really matters how you handle it afterwards. Balance quick with quality in your work. That's a big thing that I stress. Basically, there's some tasks you want to do quickly. The most important part of it is it has to be done by a certain time. But there's other tasks that need to be the very best quality. Maybe it's something going to a customer. Maybe it's something that is going to be, used as an advertisement for the company. Something like that. That high quality is going to be so important. But you have to know, what is someone asking? Are they asking me to be fast with average quality? Are they asking for the best looking thing that you've ever done? And will they give you a little extra time for it? All of that, you need to know those parameters. Don't expect an immediate promotion or raise, and understand that doesn't reflect on your performance. There are people who really do expect something very concrete to happen. And a lot of times in your first 6 months, even your first year or two, there may not be any truly outstanding praise that you will get as far as something like that, like money, like a whole lot more money, or 10 more vacation days, or you may not get something like that. But it's really important. Are you impressing your boss? Number one. Are you networking with other people on your team who also are very interested in helping you? Have you helped them? Do you have some coworkers who have your back and you have their back? That kind of thing is very important to establish. And then the last is just know what you do affects your manager and your team. Everything that anybody on a team does affects everyone else. And if you show that you care about that, and that what you did had a ricochet or, a domino effect, that also is something that really impresses people. That you're owning it. You're saying, I know, and this is what I'm doing to improve it or to improve next time. And it's just really important to keep that in mind. So there's resources. These are a lot of things I mentioned earlier. Generally for resumes in particular, just a good Google search about best practices for building resumes will get you a lot of good information. So thank you and good luck. And there is my email, wordsmith8@yahoo.com.
This was awesome.
Thanks, Wendy.
So informative. Okay, so I have some notes. One of the things I really liked was with the best traits, because it can be really hard to do that for yourself. You might be like,
yes,
a loss. So yeah, I thought that was great to ask like friends, family, kind of what things really jump out. I thought that was a great way to get to that, because I feel like
you might be clear on what you aren't, and sometimes as you get to what you are, right? Yeah. So many people, well, I don't like giving presentations. I don't like calling people on the phone or whatever. They're very clear about those things. So then do the opposite. What are you good at though?
Yeah.
We all have those things.
Yeah.
And there's certain jobs that you don't need to have, just even the whole outgoing personality thing. There's certain jobs that's perfect for.
Yeah.
But I hire for a lot of jobs. I couldn't care less if the person is a, outgoing, entertaining kind of person.
Right.
So
it might be not what's needed or what is needed. But
yes.
Yeah, I thought that was really, really great, to get to that, what do you have to offer? Because that is so important, because like you're saying, there's a 10-second in that resume where you're deciding to keep or to pitch it. And if you can really make an impact with that right from the beginning, I thought that was a really good suggestion how to achieve that, because it can be really hard to write that. And then obviously the building that network, I think is so important, especially if this is reaching somebody that's coming right out of high school or is still in college, where they're like, well, maybe I don't have any work history yet or anything. There's still networks, like you said, like professors or school counselors, or, maybe you had an internship, and that's obviously a really great one to have done well at. So you can, ask for, some recommendations or some connections to that. So,
and again, even if it wasn't an internship in the same field,
right,
that really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
No one expects someone who's 20 to have had numerous, internships in their field. But again, in the internship or any experience you had, what was impressive about you? And, someone should be able to tell you that. Yeah. Even if you only worked with them for a week or two, they probably remember a few things about you that impress them.
Hopefully positive ones.
Well, yes.
Hopefully they're positive ones. So I had a question with the resume stuff. Something I've seen come up with resumes more recently, just from friends and stuff of mine, are the photos of themselves at the top, which I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that was a thing. So what's your take on that? Is that very specific to a certain field? Like you were saying, like more creative resumes or this and that. Do you like it? Does it help to kind of see a vision of that person? Or is that like a no-no and just keep it super simple?
I mean, it's kind of a gray area. Like
Okay.
I wouldn't toss a resume for it.
Okay.
It's a lot less of an error than adding color and multiple pictures of you doing your
At the beach that are random.
it's just a professional looking headshot kind of thing.
Yes.
I think that's probably fine.
Okay.
I have seen that now, yes.
Yeah.
That more people are doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Maybe err on the side of not.
On that. I'm kind of like,
well, that's how I felt when I saw it. I was like,
yes,
this is a thing. But then I thought, you know what? I don't know. Maybe that first impression too of seeing like a nice professional photo, you know, maybe there's something to it. And maybe that's like a new thing that's going on. But you didn't mention photos. So that's why I was curious. And then what about length of resume? I know sometimes that can be challenging. You have like, even if you're bulleting, sometimes you're like, I'm into page 2. Do you like a 1 page?
I'd say 1 page unless you have, 10 or more years of experience. Then it can go to a 2nd page.
Okay. Then it's justifiable.
Yeah. Even older people that have all of that experience, a lot of times they drop those earlier jobs and they also just focus on the last 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And by the time someone gets down to the second half of your 2nd page, they've probably already decided. The only thing I might look for there is specific skills. So like computer skills in particular. Like if I'm wondering, do they have familiarity with a certain program or something? Because sometimes we're looking, again, though, that's probably for a designer or something who tend to list that pretty high up anyway.
Yeah.
Certainly, though, if it was in the job description that they want you to know a certain program, unless it's really general, like Microsoft Word or something, because we probably are going to assume
pretty much everybody has one.
But there's certain jobs like that where I would definitely be looking at exactly like your list of all of the things, all of the tools you can use, and that might be on the 2nd page.
Okay, that's good to know because that's something else I've always learned is like keep it to that 1 page. I loved the also noting to use the verbs, and it seems very like common sense, and you know that you're saying I lead, I organize, this and that, but to really make sure that they're good, strong ones that are really kind of capturing, since you're trying to bullet it, that you're really being intentional with them, that you're not just being overly wordy and trying to be so descriptive, that you're just really hitting with the verbs. I thought that was.
And you may not have the statistics to put in those verbs. People who have been in a field for dozens of years, they'll say, saved the company $4 million. You're not going to have that, and no one expects it again.
Right.
But you might be able to, on a smaller, gave isn't the greatest, but gave 4 presentations or something where you can, see the volume of what they're doing. Is it more than 1? Is it, and there's probably something you did over and over at your job that you're very good at, trying to get that in there is
important. Yeah. The other thing that I thought was really good to drive home is the asking questions, because I do think sometimes when you're talking about in the interview, that can be feeling like a gray area for the person, because if they're asking, maybe they feel like I'm going to be interrupting if I ask, or 2, if I'm asking too much, maybe they feel like I don't know.
Yes.
So then it's kind of a negative, but on the flip side of it, looking at it is like, well, but it's showing that you're interested and that you're paying attention, to things that you're talking about with the company or the job description, or like you said, even with the interviewer, what they're passionate about. I think that is important to know that, yes, you don't want to be asking random questions, and you don't want to ask, like, what is it that you do here again?
Yes. No.
Maybe not those
No,
questions.
you don't want to ask about terminology. You don't want to ask about anything that suggests that you don't understand. But
Yeah.
especially if they almost always will say, "Do you have any questions?"
Mhm.
At that point, you need
Take
to have
advantage of that.
something to ask. You don't need to be asking nonstop throughout.
Yeah.
But there are those simple questions that you could ask almost anyone that you're getting to know.
Mhm.
Like you and I haven't known each other long, right? And so if we were just sitting talking, there's probably a few simple things I could ask you,
Yeah.
or let's say that they mention that they're from Nashville or something, maybe
Right.
there's some point you can just say, hey, I've lived in Nashville for 3 years or something. How long have you, just almost anything like that is a connection.
Mhm.
And it's showing that you care something about them.
Yeah.
You can't be fake about it. You can't be
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah. It needs
but
to be genuine. Yeah.
yes, but if it's something that's rising anyway in what you're talking about, yeah, take that opportunity.
Yeah.
If you can find any kind of connection that you have to them, bring it up.
Yeah.
Usually that's not going to hurt you at all. You're showing that you can take the environment that you're in and figure out something about it,
Showing the adaptability too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of
And
just
again, there's a lot online about just basic questions you could ask that are kind of those softball kind of questions. Have some ready.
Okay, that's a good idea. So in case you get a little nervous, just even to kind of get through that initial few
then
minutes.
you'll have at least one, and then you can also have whatever else came up.
Yeah.
And you may have something in front of you. A lot of times people still, I think they do take in some sort of like a portfolio kind of thing that you just put your resume in. And if you do that, you also can have you might be able to have a piece of paper and a pen, and maybe you can write down a thing or two. That makes you look interested again. And you can also make a note of something to ask.
Yeah. Because if they're talking, you don't want to interrupt them. You can make a note, so you can double back and say, when you're mentioning that, I had that question.
And some people have very limited time for an interview, and you probably are told. Usually you're told approximately how long it might last. So if it's kind of like, sometimes they've almost made a decision on you. This is like a 15-minute kind of thing, maybe just to make sure you don't say anything very alarming.
Right.
And so if you're in that situation, you're probably not going to even get to say much. That's probably going to be them firing, a few specific questions at you. And probably, again, they're watching for a red flag. So you're just trying to sit there and not bring up anything you shouldn't, really, and if I think one thing that's also important, don't waste your time and the interviewer's time by interviewing for something that you're not going to have any interest in. Especially if you have deal breakers about it must be in a certain place, or it has to be remote, or it has to be during these particular times, or whatever, you need to work that out earlier with HR, so that when you're actually in that interview, you're able to talk about the job itself.
Yes.
Because the manager does not want to talk about that. And you need to talk, I know you may go into it. Your number one question is going to be, can I have Fridays off? Or how, something like that is what's in your head. You want to know something about, I don't know, there's, the dental benefits or something like that. And it's just not the place. It's either before that maybe, or you might have to wait till you get the actual job offer to ask some things like that.
Okay.
Which is very frustrating to people because they want to go in. That's what they want to talk about, right? You're thinking about, oh, this commute is going to be far, or, oh, I wonder what the dress code is, or all those kinds of things. You're thinking about yourself, but they're thinking about the company. They're thinking about what they need to do the work. They're not thinking about all of those other things. And I know they're so important to people, but they just can't be like your main questions or anything.
It makes sense.
They'll bring it up,
place. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, the question needs to be focused on the actual work that you'd be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which makes a ton of sense, because I actually have heard from a friend who owns a business that somebody had gotten all the way through multiple interviews to that point of hiring and then said, oh, but I have an issue with the uniform.
Oh, see.
And it's like, well, then it's a no-go. But then, yeah, you've wasted time, you've wasted resource, and maybe they've missed out on somebody else that was a good potential because otherwise they liked you. But,
yes.
And then I feel like that kind of stuff can stay with you because, they say it's a small world. And if you're especially trying to stay within that same kind of profession, they might be like, you know what? That person was a nightmare. They were a nightmare. They might look great on paper, but they were a nightmare. Stay away,
Right.
So
and you can't take a job either like that. And sometimes people will just take it and then they're gone in a month. Oh, that is long-term a really bad idea because it reflects on you. It just does.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that, going along with the networking stuff, the attitude is the most important. I thought it was definitely a really good statement because I don't think people realize sometimes, what they're wearing on their face and what that's telling people. But again, you kind of have to have your professional mode. And now, even with the social media stuff, you have to really take a good solid look at that and maybe put it on private or things where it's like, what am I putting out there? And, is this how I want to be portrayed? And is this really the professional, side of things? So
yes. And just be yourself, but be a good version of yourself. If you're a shy person, that's fine. Right. And again, you forget that hiring managers, they also are a range of personalities. So you may have someone who isn't at all what you expect. That's happened to me several times where you go into an interview and you think that maybe they're going to be a certain way and they aren't at all, and so you just don't know really until you get in there. And so that's why it's important that you're sticking to your own, script or whatever, your own idea of this is what I want to portray to them. This is what I know I'm good at. This is what I know is good about me. That's really all you can control because you can't control what they're going to be like. You just,
absolutely.
And you may be thinking, oh, well, I don't even know if I really like them or whatever, like you might have a million things going through your head, but you have to keep coming back to, this is what I'm trying to convey, and if you're not, you don't have to be the most smiley person, as long as you're putting across the things that you do have to offer, so.
Yeah. Perfect. I thought this was super informational and a lot of really good stuff. And it's great to bring it to current, what's happening today, because there is different dynamics, to even if this reaches somebody that is coming back into the workforce, that was like, oh, but I did the whole resume thing, did the whole interview thing. It's a different world. It's a different whatever. So it's really great information across the board for anybody. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I mean, this is good stuff. So
thank you, and good luck to everyone. I hope you get great positions.
I know. Please comment if you do well in your job interview from this. So, well, thank you so much, Marcy, and
thanks, Wendy.
We'll chat soon.
Bye.
Bye.